Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm coming to you with another acoustic guitar review, and we're looking at another archtop. This is the Framus Missouri. What's the exact model? 560 Missouri. As always, I have my notes written down just so I don't forget anything in the video. Like always, this will not be a shut up and play tone demonstration. This will be a full-length review where I babble on about anything and everything I feel like when talking about the guitar. Maybe some of its history, maybe some of the company's history, maybe some of why I like it. Whatever the case may be, if you're looking for a short video, click away. This will not be for you. Unapologetically so. If you're interested in hearing me ramble and rant about guitars that I think are neat, then this will be the video for you, because this is quite an instrument. I've had a chance to play a great many archtop guitars. I have an affinity for them, as my very first acoustic guitar ever was an old Airline N2 archtop, and that's really what I learned to play on, you know, an old catalog guitar. I loved that thing, and you know, I kind of resent the idea that many people have that archtops are just for jazz and blues, because I really think they can be used for a great many styles of music, and historically they have been. They've been used in rockabilly, they've been used in country, they have a rich history of being used in all sorts of genres, and being a country player primarily, I love using this thing to play some old school, like, Johnny Cash type stuff. But I also enjoy using it to, you know, do some of the bluesier stuff. All that type of stuff. So yeah, really cool guitar, but I will say there won't be a whole lot of the whole jazzy stuff going on here, because I'm not a jazz player and I don't really know that many jazz chords. So yeah, this particular Missouri was built in 1960, which is why it has the more standard F-holes. Earlier version would use a different style of F-hole design. Missing the pick guard, unfortunately, and it seems to be impossible to find a replacement, but this is one of my favorite archtops that I've ever played, and I've played a lot. Growing up, my dad and his buddy Lonnie ran a music store together, and Lonnie was obsessed with having high-end stuff. He really didn't like having a whole lot of cheaper stuff. Of course he did for people who were on a budget, but his passion was hunting down expensive, rare Martins, Gibsons, Guilds, all that, as well as custom stuff. And so he actually had a lot of vintage Gibson archtops in the store. Like, I remember playing, I think it was a 1930-something Gibson L5 in there. And so I got to play a whole bunch of beautiful vintage archtops, but for some reason, this one has a tone that I just love more, I think, than possibly any other archtop that I've picked up, which is interesting because it's not made from typical archtop guitar materials. So Framus, if those of you who don't know, they're a German guitar company. From what I can tell, they began making guitars somewhere back during World War II, when Germany was still under Nazi rule, and there was a lot of restrictions on what was being made. So they kind of had to make their guitars in secret, and you know, they sold them to people who wanted to enjoy the music and kind of embrace a happier lifestyle. And eventually, they became a full-blown company after the war ended. So kind of a cool thing, you know, kind of a cool history. And they were largely, honestly, kind of the equivalent for Germany to a lot of guitar companies like Eco in Italy or Harmony in the USA. They were more affordable instruments. They weren't meant to be super high-end guitars, although they did make some really nice stuff. This would have been middle of the road. This would have been kind of one of their upper mid-priced archtops. I did note down it cost $244 M back in the day. I'm not sure what M stands for. I was not able to find an exact amount, which would have equaled $136 back then, or $1,426 now, I believe, post-inflation. Street price on these things is about $800 these days. Okay, $800 to $1,000. So back in the day, though, not a super expensive instrument. Even today, $800 to $1,000 for an archtop, not super crazy prices by any means. The top, sides, and back on this are laminate mahogany. And that is really interesting because archtops usually will use a spruce or maple top, with almost always being maple for the back and sides. It's very rare to see mahogany being used at all, let alone for a top, which is really interesting. Now it is laminate. I'm not sure what the laminate technology was for this back in 1960. It may be 2-ply, 3-ply, 15-ply, I don't know. None of the people I was able to speak to were able to really give a whole lot of information on that. Some people did mention that sometimes these would have a solid top, a solid carved top, but laminate back and sides. There's no way for me to really check if mine has a solid top or not because I don't have a little mirror to get in here and look at the wood grain on the inside. I'm just going to assume that it's laminate all throughout, but what I can say is this thing is loud. And I'm a big fan of hogtop acoustics, so having a hogtop archtop is kind of, you know, very me in a way. The fingerboard is Rosewood. The bridge is Ebony, weirdly enough. We have this kind of really cool tailpiece that says Missouri on there. You can see the Framus logo on the body. Beautiful, beautiful grain on this mahogany top. Love to see it. We have some nice big block inlay on the fingerboard. Whether it's actually mother of pearl or plastic, who knows? I really couldn't say. Checking over here, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Of course, made in Germany. The tuners on this are not original. You can see someone's put some Grover milk bottles on here, and these are vintage Grover milk bottles, but still, this would have had open gear 3 on a plate, but they would have still had this kind of plastic, classical style post, which I will say, if you're restringing a guitar with these, you do have to do some kind of luthier's knot. I hate the luthier's knot. I find it to be an absolute waste of time usually, but if you don't luthier's knot on these plastic posts, your strings are going to slip right off and you're not going to be able to tune the damn thing. So you will have to kind of tie the strings to some degree up here just to keep it from slipping, kind of like you would on a classical guitar or on a slot headstock guitar. So, keep that in mind. Speaking of the headstock, there's the headstock design. Very classic. You can see the truss rod cover. The nut on this is actually made from rosewood, which is really weird. Kind of a strange thing, not something I see very often, but we do have a 0 fret, so hey, it doesn't really matter what the nut is made of at that point. The bridge on this is really interesting because you can see we have individually compensatable saddles, so we can get that intonation spot on. I love this because with most archtops you have to kind of wiggle the bridge until the low E and the high E are perfectly intonated, and then really pray that the bridge is designed properly for the guitar and for the scale length to make sure that the A through B strings are intonated. Sometimes they are, most often they're not. They're usually a little bit out. On this, got it perfectly intonated, which is something that, like I said, most archtops just can't claim. I think that's really, really cool. Those little pieces do just feel to be plastic though. They don't feel like bone by any means, so they are just plastic saddles. But I can really, forgive that for being so unique as this is. This guitar, this particular one, like I said, made in 1960, and it shows a lot of signs of its age. I mean, the finish on the neck is coming off all over the place. It's had a headstock repair at some point. I don't know how well you'll see that. The finish is cracking and checking all over the place. The wood is structurally solid, so I don't mind that, but I'm not sure what kind of finish they put on here. I can't imagine that's nitrocellulose, but I also don't know poly to check like this. And the checking is much more evident on the sides. I'm not sure I was going to show up on camera, but there you can kind of see that. It could just be a shellac or something similar, a cheaper kind of lacquer finish, but either way, it looks like it's been through the freaking war, which I just think is really, really cool, to be honest. Just gives this guitar a lot more personality. Big old body shape on this thing. Kind of what you'd call a super auditorium, although it's wider than that. It's really between a grand auditorium and a jumbo as far as how wide this lower bout is. So, all that said, like I mentioned before, it has a booming voice. Just super, super loud instrument. In fact, let's go ahead and scoot up, and I will try to give you all a tone demo of this behemoth. And like I said, there really won't be a whole lot of because it's just not the player that I am. For me, I love this thing for old school country. I think it sounds great. I know all the archtop fans are screaming at me for not playing the stuff they like seeing played on these things, but it's my guitar. I can play what I want on it. You know? Finger picking, I've noticed on these guitars, archtops as a whole, is kind of weird. Like, it's doable, but it feels kind of weird because I'm not really sure how to rest my hands. Maybe that's just a skill issue. Maybe I'm just not a good enough player for it. One thing I will say is there's no side dots on this thing, so it does confuse me a little bit. I didn't realize how much it relied on those side dots. Kind of funny. Also can show you how much that fretboard floats above the body, which is kind of cool. Give y'all some more looks at this guitar. You can see the holes where the pick guard would go into. Super cool vintage instrument. Anyway, scoot back here and get back to where I was. Just a really cool and unique archtop guitar, and I'm a sucker for things that are out of the ordinary. Now, if I put this thing in the hands of a real bluesy player, I'm sure they could get a monstrous sound out of this thing, because mahogany guitars typically are already really beloved by blues players, and so are archtop guitars. And when you combine those two things, I can imagine this would be an absolute blues monster in the hands of a competent blues player. Sadly, that is not me. So I probably can't bring this thing to its full potential. All that said, I like it, I enjoy it, you know. It's a really neat instrument, and something that I'm really happy to be able to bring y'all here on video, because there's no video reviews of the Framus 560 Missouri on YouTube, at least not of the all mahogany models. So just kind of my way of helping contribute to the information on this thing. Big thanks to all the guys in the vintage Framus guitar group for, you know, helping me learn more about this. A lot of experts on old school German guitars there. And yeah, they were really instrumental, pun intended, to me having all the information I needed to bring you this video. I will say one thing that annoys me is, while we do have a strap button down here, there is no strap button up here, and I can't even like put a little strap leather strap thing through the strings and the headstock, because it's just so tight fitting there. So there's no way for me to put a strap on this guitar, unfortunately. I could always just drill a hole for a strap button, but I don't want to. Anyhow, that's it. That is my review on the Framus 560 Missouri. Really cool instrument. I don't think I forgot anything. Doesn't look like it. Yeah. So, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, I will see you later. Peace and take care.